What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about a very big catalyst whenever it comes to Bitcoin moving up, when it comes to altcoins gaining new grounds, when it comes to the stock market moving up as well. And the catalyst I'm talking about is the DXY. The purpose of this video is to discuss and chart the dynamics of the DXY, where I can see it going, and why I think we're at a very crucial turning point that's going to allow the markets, not just in crypto but in stocks as well, probably even outside of that, markets all around, to just expand and grow. Okay, if you don't know what the DXY is, the DXY is a basket of currencies weighed against the US dollar. Essentially, it's a way for us to measure the strength of the US dollar. When the DXY is gaining grounds, assets like Bitcoin that are valued against the US dollar, right? If Bitcoin's worth $100,000, we measure it in dollars. You could imagine it's harder for Bitcoin to gain strength, to gain more ground versus the dollar and gain higher prices, if the dollar itself is also gaining strength and gaining higher ground, right? If the dollar's getting weaker and Bitcoin's gaining ground versus it, that's going to allow it, that's going to be the environment for Bitcoin and crypto as a whole, stocks, all markets, to just pump through the roof, right? So that's the purpose of this video. Let's get into it, okay? Hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I hope that by the end of this, you guys all have a perspective of what to expect, not just over the coming weeks, but over the coming months as well. So here we are. I want to first look at the DXY and identify kind of what I think is going on just in the long term, and then we'll get into the more short-term stuff that pertains to what we're doing here in the weeks and months going forward. Okay, so first and foremost, the DXY, again, this is the US dollar currency, essentially. It's not worth $108. This is just the rating versus the basket of crypto, or basket of currencies that it's weighed against. You can see that ever since 2008 right here, the DXY has actually been in an uptrend versus major world currencies, right? We've been in a nice established uptrend. In this uptrend, in these moments in the uptrend, we have had phases where we expand and then we consolidate, and then we expand and then we consolidate, and then we expand again, and now we are consolidating. So within these ranges, some people might wonder, you know, and I was talking about expanding whenever we move up. That's not good for price growth normally, right? And almost always, actually, it's very not good for price growth. The question might come to mind, are we expanding now? When are we going to see our next expansion? Are we due for that? And I think if we just measure here, again, from this first kind of rate of expansion, where we consolidated for a while, and we measure how long this consolidation phase lasted before we started to really expand out, I would say that's about 69 months there. You started here. Yes, your high was all the way over here, but I would say you started consolidating really here. This was the end of your move. You started to expand basically here, which was 75 months. You weren't breaking out, but that's when you started this expansive move here. That's when you started the expansive move there. So 69 months, 75 months. From the time that we've been in this consolidation phase here, from a high to where we are now, it's only been 28 months. I don't know about you guys, but I don't assume we're going to go through a expansive phase like what we saw in between these consolidation phases until this consolidation phase has more time, okay? So now that we've established that, and I think it's very important we establish that, now we can identify this range, okay? Because again, we established that to know that we are not expecting a breakout to the upside or the downside. Likely, we will be range bound for, if we're at 28 months now, at least another probably 30 months or so. 35 months? No, it would be almost like 40 months actually. Yeah, 40 months, 35 months, something like that. Anyways, now that we've identified the ranges, I want to identify this range specifically and what we're doing in it. So from an overall high to the low that we had here, you can see that this most recent move moved all the way up to the 61869, the golden ratio zone, right? That's the golden ratio right there. You can look it up. That's what it is. If you take a high to low within this consolidation phase as well, high to low right here, this move also took you right up to this 1414. You actually literally tipped it, right? If I take away this first fib range where you're in the golden ratio, and now we have a different fib range where you're hitting the extensions, you literally tipped the 1414. Maybe that one's not the right one. Maybe I should measure it from this one. Here you're just shy of the 1618, but whatever. Tomato, you're in an area of expected resistance here, expected resistance there, and also on the larger fib, it would make sense you find resistance here. Now, the question is, are you done here? Are you going to go back to your lows? Are you going to go lower? Or is this just a pit stop in a momentary pause in an overall run that's going to take you up higher? Because we have seen it before where you will end and you will start to consolidate, and you can still see higher relative highs. That's not out of the question. The DXY could definitely go back up to these highs and even above these highs, and of course it can go below these lows as well. I don't think that that's out of the question at all. However, I don't think it will. I don't think that you would go below these lows personally. So again, just my kind of thoughts are that we probably will drop from here, and the minimum expectation, because we don't know if you're continuing to grow, we don't know if you're having a full-blown correction or what, the minimum expectation is that you've gone from a high to a low and gone up to your golden ratio. What we would expect from here is that you pull back to your 0.5 or your 382, or likely somewhere in between. From there, you could find support and build higher. You could find support, find resistance, and construct yourself to a lower side. It depends on how this thing wants to go. But what's very clear, at least abundantly clear to me, is that we are not stopping at least until we hit a read of about 106.9. We're at about 108.1 now. That might not seem that significant, but it is. Trust me, it actually very much is significant. And a drop all the way down here, even if it is just half of this move up, that would be significant in itself. And I don't know about you guys, but it seems like this month is what's kicking it off. So what this means to me is that this is likely just the beginning of the good times that are soon to roll, probably for February and even beyond that, right? I was expecting that we would top off sometime in February, just momentarily. I've been saying anything from like 3 weeks to 3 months could be the expectation. But it's looking like it might be on that shorter side, honestly. I would expect we find a momentary high in February. We might find a low in March, but then we'll probably have a bullish March going into April as well. This is a good look, is all I'm trying to say, right? If we look at the monthly RSI here, we are rejecting around the 60 area. It would be very nice if this month in January, if we could close with the DXY below the 60 read. If we could do that, you guys, that would actually look very good, because that would be a bearish look on the DXY, which is a bullish look again for the overall markets. We're going to compare what Bitcoin does whenever the DXY drops, by the way. We're going to do that in just a second, but I want to do this real quick. The weekly RSI also showing a bit of a double top here. Generally, people look for bearish divergence where you get lower highs, but there's a good bit of the time where instead of bearish divergence, you'll get slightly higher highs along with your significantly higher highs here, and that's not bearish divergence necessarily, but it should be considered as such. It's a double top to some degree, and on the weekly basis, that's a very strong signal. Being at your golden ratio, I highly suspect that does mean you're going to drop off, and it kind of looks like you've broken out of this zone already, so I think that you would drop off. If we take another kind of look, in the area that we would assume that you would go to would be something like here or here, right? Something in between the 0.5 to the 382. You could go lower, right? You don't have to go that low, but likely you go in somewhere in this range, or you could go lower. It's just, I'm going off of standard fib behavior, okay? You bounced off the golden ratio, you showed respect on that. That's the fib that matters the most to me, so I think that you're going to show significance on areas that we would expect you to find significance. From a strong move like this, I would expect you pull back to the 382. That's right within this range here, so making sense out of those fibs. If you broke below the 0.5, you'd likely go to the 1618. And you could go all the way down here, but let's focus on something I think in this range here between probably closer, I would guess at least 106 to 105. You're at 108 now. That's a pretty big drop. That is a pretty big correction. That'd be enough for the markets to pick up the pace a little bit. And the faster this drops, the better for everything, right? Looking at the daily time frame, you've been overbought. You've been very strong, definitely charging your way up, but it looks like you've fallen out now, broken out. You are rolling over on your RSI, and you're seeing some of the lowest readings you've seen in a long time while getting lower lows here. It looks like it's time to go down. So now that I think we've painstakingly established that, let's look at this thing again. Let's kind of zoom out on a weekly basis and compare. We're going to throw Bitcoin over this thing. Yeah, BTC USD, new price scale. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, the red line, that's Bitcoin there. I'm going to put it in a log scale, and then obviously this is the DXY. Okay, I don't even think we need it in candlestick form, do we? We could probably just have it in a line, just so it's kind of easier to see, right? So whenever Bitcoin goes, what I want to do now is I want to identify these bullish runs and the bearish runs in the relationship to the DXY. Okay, so the DXY is the blue line, the red line is Bitcoin. Okay, when the DXY dropped, I think whenever it really started to drop, was right here. Of course, it started to drop, 2008 low down here, but Bitcoin didn't come into existence by then, right? It came into existence here. DXY was growing alongside with Bitcoin. Look at how Bitcoin performed here while the DXY was also performing well, okay? And then notice the uptick it had. Notice the pace it picked up the moment the DXY dropped, right? So the DXY here dropping, white line, look at what happened in Bitcoin, the red line. You know what, I'm gonna instead of having them overlap, I'm going to have them on their own kind of sections so that it might be easier to identify, right? You can see that after the white line, Bitcoin grew at an unprecedented rate, especially in comparison to what it did beforehand, all in relation to the DXY dropping, right? And these faster paces, the moments where it consolidates is actually where the DXY is consolidating too, but moving to the upside, right? So again, dropping, immense drop, big pump, okay? Here, we had a bull cycle, but there was no dropping in the DXY necessarily. It was just consolidating. It wasn't expanding, okay? No expansion, so that's good. We topped off here. The DXY, debatably, or I would say very realistically, was actually at a low point there. So when the DXY bottomed out and was ready for a move up, that's when the Bitcoin itself topped off and then had a bear cycle at the same time as the DXY having a bull cycle, right? So you can see this relationship, at least on a large scale. All the little in-betweens, there are times where Bitcoin can move up and the DXY can move up, right? There are times when they both move down together. It's not 100% tit for tat opposites, right? But there are large moments when it comes to the season, let's just say, that does come into effect where they are essential opposites, okay? So here, Bitcoin, again, finding its low right around the time the DXY is finding its high, its bear market low, and it might not be that obvious, but I think if I can zoom this in a little bit, you can see that a little bit better, right? Finding its bear market lows here, right whenever the DXY is finding its top, and now that it's consolidating, it doesn't even need to drop that much, but now that it's consolidating, Bitcoin can move up. So here, Bitcoin found its low, it's moving up, and the DXY until this time is just consolidating, and it finds its high here. I want to identify again the movement, the behavior before the DXY started to go on a downtrend. It was just consolidating, bullish behavior in that just consolidation. But then once you dumped, look at the pace. Look at how much the pace picked up for Bitcoin, right? That was an immaculate second half of the cycle there after you sold off in the DXY. Again, none of these cycles, none of the bull cycles so far have had an expansion. The DXY expanding, it doesn't happen. It only happens in the bear cycles. And generally, that's actually what ignites the bear cycles, is this DXY expansion, okay? I'm trying to grab the BTC chart here. Okay, so, and then again, topped off here at the bottom of the DXY. DXY starts to move up a little bit, bear market time, okay? It's not expanding, it's just consolidating. Whenever we drop off here, we dropped off here, had a pretty big drop off in the DXY. That's when Bitcoin started to run up a lot. That was the best part about its cycle right there, okay? Here we are, the last bull cycle that we had. Bitcoin ended its cycle around here. The DXY bottomed here, but we continued on to find higher highs, new all-time highs later in the cycle. However, it was also whenever the DXY was expanding. This is where I get my theory. You guys will hear me say it time and time again if we ever talk about the last cycle, that I think we were robbed. I think we were supposed to see a cycle ending high, but because the DXY was expanding, we were in an expansive phase. It's undeniable. Right here, while we were at the last part of the bull cycle, we were robbed of a finale finish that we normally would see. I think Bitcoin was supposed to see prices above 100K last time, but you know, who cares? We'll never know because this happened, right? So here now I'm addressing that because we will not likely have an expansive phase during this bull cycle. We did during this last part of the bull cycle last time, which doesn't look like much, but man, that's from July. That's from the beginning of July until November. We're talking about a long, like months, man, like over a quarter of a year. Bitcoin can do a lot of damage in that amount of time, right? So we were robbed of that with the expansion. Being that, and again, tying it to the beginning of this video, okay, tying it to the beginning of the video, that whenever we've consolidated in the DXY here, that we've consolidated for 69 months, 75 months. Here it's only been 28 months. I don't think we're about to go in an expansive phase now. So if you're worried that we could see an expansive phase now like we did last cycle, and it kicks off the bear market too, I don't think we're going to see that. I personally think that we have too much time. So now I actually think we're more akin to some kind of a drop, which would likely send us at a faster rate than anything we've seen this bull market, because the whole time we've been moving up with Bitcoin, the DXY has only been consolidating, and really since September, it's only been moving up, and Bitcoin's only been moving up too. You can see it side by side. They've been moving up. What's Bitcoin, what's crypto going to do when the DXY finally tanks? And I think it's going to tank. We did all that in the beginning. Right now, we're just comparing it. I'm letting you tie the dots together, hopefully. I don't know what else to say, but I'm jacked, you guys. It's going to be a phenomenal coming of weeks, coming of months. It's going to be a phenomenal coming of everything, man. It's going to be great, and I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. If you are, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I really appreciate you all very much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Bye-bye.